nice thing to do while you're coming out, especially if you spend a lot of time looking at screens, is rub the palms of your hands together and then cup them over your eyes. And your eyes are the direct, they say the eyes are the windows to the soul, and at the very least they're the most direct path direct into the brain. So doing this kind of soothes the whole nervous system. And as you feel ready, you can slowly open the eyes. Okay, how's everyone doing? Good? Good. Any questions about meditation itself or observations?
I don't do it a whole lot because it was said to me that it implies sometimes that I'm trying to become something.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's like a means to an end.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, you said someone
it's like
said
a
that?
means to an end.
Yes, but you said that someone said that to you, that it
and that made sense.
meditating.
That it's like a means to an end, that there's something to become.
Yeah, if you're doing something. Then that's absolutely right. As long as there's doing involved, that evokes the
a lot of people think they do meditation or that they are meditating.
Yeah. So as long as you're doing something in the name of meditation, then yes, it's a means to an end. I'm going to try to, whatever, fill in the blank. As soon as you say try to, you're already screwed. Right? I'm going to try to concentrate. I'm going to try to feel cosmic. I'm going to try to whatever. Then it's a means to an end. And then that means that you're creating, or rather you're reinforcing the illusion of duality. Okay? Because, now there's as soon as you say, I'm going to try to still my mind, right? I'm going to try to concentrate. I'm going to try to get enlightened. Already there's three things there. There's this person, right? A person, an I, an actor. There's an action of stilling or trying to still the mind. No one can still their mind, but the attempt to still the mind, or the attempt to feel cosmic, or whatever, or to be mindful, whatever it is. So as long as there's that action, now and then there's an actor, right? And who or what is going to do this acting, right? It's not going to be, the boundless, qualityless beingness doesn't do anything. So you're going to have to be a person to do that. So now you've got this person, this actor, engaging in this action in order to achieve a result, a means to an end, exactly as you say. So we're, in a sense, reinforcing that. That's why real meditation is not doing anything. It's not doing, it's being. It's not doing, it's being. I mean, I would like to abolish this word meditation, but we got to put some kind of shingle on the door. Have to put some word on the cover of the books. Otherwise, how do we get people through the door? Okay, nothing. I got plenty of nothing. Nothing's plenty for me. Yeah. And in another age, in another time, that we could do that, perhaps. So we use this word meditation as a way to kind of, reel people in. And, they think, I'm going to learn to do something, and then we got them. Once we got them, then we pull the rug out from under their concepts that they're going to exert some effort and achieve some result, and instead they're left just being. But then, if we have to use the word result, the result that comes from not pursuing any result is that what you already were all along becomes clearer. It becomes more clearly cognized. It becomes clearer and clearer to you that, oh, I'm not a body. The experiences that I call having a body are experiences of weight and color and, sensation and, tightness here, looseness here, whatever. All those are experiences, but I'm the one experiencing it. Or I thought I was a personality, like, oh, I'm, this way, I'm very articulate, or I'm very inarticulate, or I'm very extroverted or introverted, or, this or that. I have all this personal history and all these plans, and I'm a Gemini, and I'm, all of this stuff. That's all stuff that's experienced. Who or what is experiencing it? Oh, I, awareness, which is not a Gemini or a Sagittarius, is not even introverted or extroverted, is not male or female, is not old or young, is not American or Russian or whatever. It just is. So you can't become that, but because you already are that, but it just becomes clearer. And this just hanging out in so-called meditation, which is just being, you notice, oh, okay, I'm aware, awareness is always going on, rest is awareness. So I always tell people, if you're going to walk away with, if you can only remember 3 words to walk away with, the 3 words are rest as awareness. You're already awareness, just rest as that, or rest in that. Relax back into whenever and inevitably it happens, you find yourself trying to change some result or caught up in some long thought story or something. That's fine. It's part. You have to have that stuff happen so you can let go of it. That's in a sense, that's, if there's any doing in meditation, that's the doing. I don't even like to use the term let go. We were talking about this before, because let go sounds to people like it's supposed to go away.
That it's not allowed.
That it's not allowed, or it's something wrong with it being there. Oh, you
right.
Just let that. What? Someone said something else. Just like your hat. Let that shit go. Let shit go. And that's kind of nice in a day-to-day thing. It's a nice doing people a nice service walking around Venice with that. Yeah.
I forget I have the hat on.
Yeah.
And people say, I like your hat. I'm like, oh, okay, thanks.
Right. Right.
I forget.
Right. But it becomes, and in meditation, at first it can seem like that, like, okay, I've got to let this thing go. And then more and more you realize it's just when you've clamped up on it, when you've tightened up around the particular thought or something, you just relax your grip on it. I mean, that's the real meaning of let go. And so to me that phrase is fine, except that people misunderstand it. So I don't use that. I used to use that a lot. I don't use that anymore.
Embrace, welcome, notice, witness.
Yeah.
Watch.
Yeah. You know what? Any words that we use have a backdoor of misunderstanding. Any words that we use, there's a way to misinterpret them. If we say witness, it can, that's
implies there's a witnesser.
It can sound like that. Okay, I'm going to try to witness. I'm going to be uninvolved. I'm going to be an innocent bystander, no matter how much I feel like, But if we explain them, or if we toss a few into the air, so they kind of mutually cancel out each other's possible misinterpretations, we can use the word skillfully. And we just have to keep remembering that the words are pointing to something which is always simpler than the words sound.
Yes.
Yeah.
But they're kind of helpful. Otherwise, we're going.
Otherwise, right. And, yeah, we can do that too. And eventually, not even that, we just be silent. The greatest teachers, Sri Ramana Maharshi, supposedly, who did a lot of, we've got books full of the stuff that he said. And he also said that his real teaching, his deepest teaching, was done in silence.
Yeah, it wouldn't have worked for me a few years ago.
Yeah, right.
I don't think so.
I
would have just said, nice guy. I would have needed some words.
Yeah, sure. No, most people do. and then there may be points where for a little while you don't need them. There may be places where.
No, I didn't do that. I don't
Yeah.
know.
So what else? What else? What else? I actually wanted to come back to this topic of hugging. First of all, I wanted to mention for our friends out there in YouTube land who are not in the LA area, I believe Amma is, when she comes to the U.S., she tours. She's not coming only to LA. So if you're interested, go to amma.org. I'm sure you can't read it from there, but go to amma.org and AMMA.org, and if you're interested, see if she's coming to a venue near you. Dorothy, when you were talking about hugging with yours truly, and what I wanted to say is I really enjoy that hugging too. And for a few reasons. If I think about it, which usually I don't, but if I think about it, for one thing, it's just something very special about the people who come here. This is our precious, Dharma brothers and sisters, the people who are through some incredible long chains of crazy cause and effect, we've wound up sitting in this room together. This particular group of us may never sit together again, but somehow we've converged here for this purpose of awakening together, and we're all always helping each other, and that, what more beautiful project could there be? So I always feel that when I'm hugging people here. That's one thing. The other thing is that there is, as I said in that little quote from the book, that experience of hugging your beingness with my beingness, or however I said that. But also, there's two bodies there. On another level, there's two bodies there. And there's this incredible, we could say paradox, or that these two things, what seem like two things, are going on at once. Here's a body hugging a body, and at the same time, which seems like two things, and at the same time, there's just beingness hugging beingness, and that's not two things. It's non-duality. That's without a bunch of, you were talking before about people with long lectures on non-duality. I got your non-duality right here. Right? And as always, non-duality does not mean that the part that looks like duality, in this case two bodies, goes away. Just like it's, again, this business of letting go. It's not that it has to go away. It's that the two are seen to be not two. Our experience is not two. You got to have two things to experience that they're not two. Okay? In Buddhism, in the Heart Sutra, and the heart of the Heart Sutra is the kind of the E equals MC squared of the whole Buddhist teachings, is where it says form is no other than emptiness. Emptiness no other than form. Notice it does it both ways to make sure it's clear that there's no escape clause, because it sounds so impossible. People look for an escape clause. And then again, just to make sure you're not looking for some loophole, in the next line it says, form is exactly emptiness. Emptiness is exactly form. Because they realize that, 2,500 years from there, people would be trying to litigate their way out of the absoluteness of that statement, trying to relativize it, put conditions on it. So when you're hugging a person, there's the form. The two bodies are the two forms, right? At the same time, it's just there's just emptiness, right? And then fill in the blank. Every other experience is like that. You're eating the food. Remember who was Kathy and Kat? You were at our day-long retreat on the Bhagavad Gita, and remember that that verse that we talked about, which in India is used as the blessing before meals, where it says Brahman, which is the term in Hindu philosophy for emptiness, for the infinite, the boundless. Brahman is the offering, Brahman is the oblation, Brahman is he who offers into fire, that is Brahman. Right? And that's derived from it. We talked about this last Sunday. From the old Vedic rituals where you were taking an offer, you were taking whatever, sacrificing, I don't know if they were sacrificing animals or vegetables or minerals or I don't know, something, and throwing them into the fire. And making the point that the thing you're offering, and we say, okay, we're offering to Brahman, we're offering to the infinite, offering to God, if that word happens to work for you, but that the thing you're offering is already Brahman. Mm-hmm. The fire you're offering it into is already Brahman. The one who's throwing it into the fire is already Brahman. Okay. So then that's whatever you do, and when you're eating food, when you say this is the prayer before meals, the fire is the fire of digestion. But the fire is, every process is some kind of fire. The Buddha said that too. There's something called the Fire Sutra, where basically he says everything's fire, everything's process, conversion, right? But that fire, whatever particular kind of process, activity is going on, what appear to be separate actor, action, act accomplished, it's all the same fire. It's all Brahman. It's all the emptiness. It's on the one hand, it's these forms, but on the other hand, at the same time, it's emptiness. And this, just like all the symptoms of awakening, this cognition dawns spontaneously, it dawns naturally. But there's some usefulness in pointing it out, so you don't, playing tour guide with each other a little bit. You notice that, oh yeah, right, that kind of helps you notice, and that it has a way of kind of helping things along. Are you hearing this? Is this landing for people?
I have read that statement, I think it was by Adyashanti.
Mm-hmm.
He said, awakening, there is nothing for the person, nothing to be gained for the person in awakening. And I found it helpful for my meditation,
mm-hmm.
To be less attached to wanting to feel good.
Right.
Because I can't help but waiting for something to happen.
Right.
And when I think, okay, if you don't feel good, if it's boring,
mm-hmm.
that doesn't mean that nothing is happening
mm-hmm.
in the long term.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about the cafe person
mm-hmm.
feeling good and fine at the
right.
end of the
right.
meditation.
Yeah, and that's really good advice. Not surprising coming from Adyashanti. He's a great teacher. Not being focused on this idea that, I have to feel good in meditation. Doesn't matter how you feel. It doesn't matter how you feel in meditation. And you've probably experienced this. Have you ever had a meditation where just the whole thing, you're just, God, I'm not settled down, and you're just ants in the pants, and you're remembering this and thinking about that, and oh man, this has only been 5 minutes. Oh my God, this is excruciating. Right. And I've got so many useful things to do. This is such a waste of time. And then you get up afterward and you feel, I feel pretty good. I feel more grounded, or more quiet inside, or more clear, or something. Has that ever happened to you?
I would say over time.
Yeah.
Not necessarily right after the meditation,
Yeah.
but over time.
Yeah. And sometimes you might notice that right after the meditation, and sometimes you might notice it later. And in the long term, this is more and more what happens. The long term is, we're in for the long term. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. Sometimes it might be a sprint, Actually, I don't like either of those images because they both imply work. I'm way too lazy. I ran one season of cross country in high school and never again.
You don't like work either.
Yeah.
We were talking about somebody.
The work of Brahman.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was a
My
TV
problem with it is the name.
there was a TV show when I was in high school called The Many Loves of Dobie Gillis. And
Maynard G. Krebs.
Maynard G.
Yeah.
Krebs, Dobie's
Mrs.
beatnik sidekick, played by
Yeah.
Bob Denver, who was later
Oh.
Gilligan on Gilligan's Island, and he was always wearing this kind of sloppy
You always felt
sweatshirt, and he had a
sorry for
little
Goatee.
goatee, and whenever he came on, there was there was like Maynard's theme is played on a trumpet, this kind of bluesy. He was so cool, and Dobie was so uptight.
Yeah.
So I always wanted to be Maynard, not Dobie.
Yeah.
And Dobie with his little button-down Ivy League shirts and worrying about this girl and that girl. And the great thing about Maynard was anytime someone said the word work, he would go, work! So this is we're doing the Maynard G. Krebs path to enlightenment.
I was just thinking, speaking about Nishanti, something that always stayed with me, something he said at a retreat we were at with him, was that that people often come to meditation and come to Dharma, teachings because of painful things and difficulties and like how could life be so, horrible? I need to find a way. But he said something about, but it's not all bad. It's actually life stuff. There's like cool stuff and happy stuff and satisfying stuff. And so that's what makes it that much harder to just melt into everything just flowing. Because we kind of go there thinking I'm going to be released from my pain, but there is happy stuff and release and joyful stuff, and so it feels like then we like attach to that. Right. And just him pointing that there's great stuff that we kind of hold on to then.
Right. It's back to Dorothy's hat. Let shit go. Yeah. We want to let the shit go.
Right.
But we don't want to let the ice cream go. Right. We want to be selective.
Oh, that's like that vulnerability thing we were just.
The which thing?
The vulnerability thing we were just.
Yes. Yeah, there's a wonderful TED talk by. Do you remember the woman's name?
Brene Brown.
Oh
Yeah, Brene Brown about vulnerability, the wisdom of vulnerability, something. Brene, Brene Brown. Look it up, y'all, on a TED talk. It's really great, and she makes the point that what was the point here?
In order to be vulnerable, you have the possibility of pain and loss and suffering, but you also have the possibility of joy and love and acceptance.
Right.
But that you basically can't have one without
the
other.
You can't be selective. That we want to be selective in our opening up.
Right.
But we're opening to life.
Your problem is you love one part of the dream and not the other.
Yeah.
Love
So
all of it or none of it.
Yeah. And in a way this brings us back to, it's kind of another angle of coming back to, in my experience, the importance of sitting down and quote meditating unquote, which we know that word is a fraud. It's just resting as awareness. But it's doing nothing, but it's very important to show up and do it. To show up and do that nothing. Because that is our chance to experience, Kathy, exactly what you're saying, which is the throwing everything into the fire. Throwing, that we want to hold on to the ice cream. Fine, let's get rid of the shit we want, but hold on to the ice cream. Well, that's the approach that, what in Buddhism they call ordinary people take. Everyone's trying to accumulate more of the good stuff and get rid of the bad stuff. At least what we judge in the given moment to be good and bad, which also can change, is also relative. I remember seeing a friend of mine take his shirt off and see places that he had things pierced that I can't even think about. And apparently that's part of his idea of a good time. Sometimes I find the most helpful cue in meditation for myself, the thing I tell myself, all this stuff, I'm always telling myself, is that when you sit down to meditate, buy a one-way ticket. Buy a one-way ticket. When we sit down to meditate, or for that matter, sit down to have a conversation like this, or sit down to have a meal, there's an unspoken assumption that at the end, there's going to be an end of that, and then we're going to get up and go about our business, go on to the next thing. Well, maybe. There's one time when we're not. We don't know, and what time will it be? I remember hearing Sogyal Rinpoche say, we wake up every morning with the unspoken thought, I will not die today. Maybe. So what if we take the opposite assumption? When you sit down to meditate, and this is it. I'm freaking dead here. Okay? And then what you find is when you find yourself sitting in meditation and doing these subtle holdings on and graspings and plannings and all that are based on the old assumption. Like, okay, what am I going to cook for dinner? And how am I going to have this conversation with this person? And then every time you find yourself doing that, you go, oh, wait a minute. No, I'm dying here. I'm dying here. So great, I don't have to deal with any of that. And if you really do that in a serious way, I think you'll find there is a profound letting go there. Because that's non-selective. That's letting go of everything. And for one thing, one time, maybe this is really going to be the time. We never know. No, we never know. We never know. But just in case this one isn't the last one, this is good practice for when that happens. And you don't want to go into that fire without a fire drill. This is the fire drill for dying, and also it turns out this is the fire drill for living. Because when you're perpetually letting shit go, letting everything go, it's different.
It's nicer.
Oh my God, it's so much less work.
Yeah.
It's so much less work because all that grasping, all that doesn't accomplish anything. It just except for making you tense and getting you caught up in a bunch of the fruits of a bunch of actions over which you have zero control.
I was in Costco this morning because I thought of you because conspicuous consumption. I have a hard time in that place, but I do have to go.
Right.
And I asked someone to help me with like that big case of water. I can't even lift it, and he said no. He went there, and I walked away and I went,
Right.
I did it 2 more times. And just later in the afternoon, I remember thinking, what was that this morning in Costco that it was so weird because normally when someone rubs you the wrong, like if I'm on the bike path and I had someone screaming at me because they were on the bike path and I was using my little bell instead of screaming, get out of the way. And they're like, settle down, lady. And I remember thinking, wow, or like Andy Warhol, so what?
Yeah, right. Yeah, just say,
Yeah, and I think what else has helped me too, we're talking about like, the good and bad in life, and who leaves this earth unscathed? Nobody.
Right.
And we all have pain, we all have sorrow,
Yeah.
but there is the happiness, there's the joy, and I said what helps me is so much, I call it real life, and when stuff happens, I actually say, this is real life, and it's sort of like, just like that. This
is part of the deal. This is what you signed up for. When you signed up to, when you picked this course out of the course catalog, okay, this time I'm going to be a human rather than a rock or a cabbage.
Yeah.
I never signed up for nothing.
I beg to differ.
There's no one to sign up.
I think
you're signed up.
if
Who's
you're
me that signed up?
You know what
yeah
I'm saying? Being a part of life, you're signed up to be on this earth, to enjoy your life, to, you know, I think we're put on this earth to enjoy our lives, and so many people don't.
yeah
That's a shame.
yeah
You know, and they choose suffering when they could choose, you know, it's a choice.
No, there are no choices though either. I don't think there's any choices.
I think
There's
there
no one
are.
to choose, and there's no choice because
See,
there's no one to choose. There's
See, I
Well, yeah,
choices,
on the-
apparent choices,
well-
but there's no chooser, and
yeah.
so I really don't believe in free will at all. I think that's a myth.
Yeah.
See, I choose every
Yeah.
day.
well you know
It appears that way.
yeah
yeah.
yeah you know I mean on the you know, like so many of these things, and you'll read these different statements and they sound right to you and you say them, and they're and the you know the there are statements that are true on different levels, and of course on the level of ultimate non-duality, of course there's no chooser, there's no choice to be made, and on other levels there is. The kid runs out into the middle of the street, and you can go, oh, there's no chooser, there's no choice, and you let the kid get hit by the car. No, you go
Right.
grab the kid.
Right.
You choose
That's actually where I
to do
struggle sometimes though,
that. Mm-hmm.
because like I mean with this concept anyway, because on the one hand I feel like, you know what, there's I don't choose what thoughts arise. I
Right.
certainly wouldn't,
Mm-hmm.
you know, choose voluntarily to have had, at least not, no, you know, I think
Mhm.
when you look back with hindsight, you can see with 2020 and
Right.
you can see that, wow, you know, it was so good
Mm-hmm.
that this horrific thing happened.
Right.
And you can't always see that in the moment.
Right.
You wouldn't have chosen it.
Wouldn't have chosen it.
You wouldn't have chosen it.
Right.
But so I
But
don't
do you,
know,
but
there's
do you ever
different-
find that when you look back with that 2020 hindsight, you realize, you know, I wouldn't have chosen it, but actually I did choose it. I did
No.
choose it. I
like,
did
I don't-
did go
I don't
that
s-
I did go that way. I did get involved with that in that relationship, or I did go into
I can
that
see
job.
that
or-
like in some situations, but
Mhm.
like I can't see how I chose the alcoholic abusive mom.
Mhm.
You know, I can't see. Oh yeah, I somehow picked a life path number that's going to put me here, and like I don't buy
Right.
into that. I think
Yeah.
I can't prove that either.
Yeah.
That to me is all belief based,
Mm-hmm.
and it's
Yeah.
like, and I can't. There's no evidence that I chose. There's a
Mhm.
me that chose.
Mm-hmm.
I can't. I don't believe that even on the relative level. I
Yeah.
don't think there is
Yeah.
a me.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
I mean,
You know,
I get the
yeah.
idea. I mean, there's the idea of me. There's a body here, and
Mhm.
there's thoughts that are happening, and
Yeah.
there's.
I mean,
reason.
I've seen certain things that have, just for me personally, have led me to feel that we do get our ticket punched for, okay, for whatever reasons, I've got to have the abusive mom this time around, or I've got to be in this particular situation this time around to learn certain things, or to have certain, to get, for to have the conditions that are going to allow my consciousness to unfold. But I think that it's not necessarily. I think that's very right. That I think that attitude that if you haven't particularly seen a thing to convince you of a thing, whatever it is, then if for you it would just be belief based, then there's no need to embrace that. I think a lot of people, in a very glib way, they read stuff in books and they go, "Oh yeah, it's all whatever," and I think it doesn't much matter. I think what matters is the practice. Was where the rubber meets the road. The practice of non-practice, the practice of just being, and sitting there, sitting down, parking your ass on the cushion every day, closing your eyes, and whatever you experience, as you were saying, sometimes you feel, oh, I'm so settled, it's so blissful, and sometimes, oh my God, I'm just perking away like Mr. Coffee here, and it doesn't matter, and you just sit there and be with it, and just rest as awareness, and don't mind what stuff comes and goes, what phenomena come and go within the awareness. The feeling that, oh, now I'm settled or now I'm not settled, that's not it. That's just phenomena coming and going within it. And the more that you just sit there, allowing whatever comes and goes to come and go. Even to say allowing is too much, because it's going to do that whether you quote unquote allow it or not. And that's a valuable thing to recognize. Just, we're oh, I'm so cosmic, I'm so enlightened, I'm allowing this,
No, I just notice
Right.
whenever I have an uncomfortable
Yeah.
feeling, I use that. Like that's an opportunity.
Yeah.
To me, because if there's any discomfort, there's any resistance, any wanting anything to be anything else, that to me is like an invitation to say, well, let's just explore this sensation here.
Yeah.
Right? And
Well,
is it that bad, really? I mean, most of the time it's not. It's like their stories make it bad. And then I'm like, well, if I'm not this body, and I don't think I am anymore. There's a body, absolutely. When I saw my father's corpse, I had two thoughts. The first one was, well, now I know why they call them stiffs.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the second was like, if that's not proof we're not our bodies, I don't know what is. I don't know about reincarnation.
Right.
I don't know. I used to like that idea. I did.
It's the few times that I've been around a dead body, what really struck me is they're so still. They're so still. We're all breathing all the time, and we're so used to breathing and being around people that are breathing that it doesn't register on us. And none of this ever occurred to me till the first time I saw a corpse. That if we were paying attention to this fact of breathing, this is all we'd see, all these chests rising and falling. And then when you're with a corpse, I noticed, oh, they're fine, they're free of breathing, and that's so silent.
Well, there's an energy,
Yeah,
all of us.
That's interesting.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
That's an interesting observation. That's like, because my experience when I saw my father's corpses, something's missing. Okay.
Yeah.
That's not him.
Yeah.
It didn't even look like him.
Yeah. It's not.
That's not him. He's not there. He's not there. That's not him.
Yeah.
And so the stillness. Well, of course it's still, because there's.
Right.
That didn't occur to me. It's a shell. It's going to be still.
Yeah.
It's like saying the table's still.
Yeah.
It's like a table.
There's all so many different things people.
I like your way you look at that. That's good.
So many different things. Well, related to that, something you might like, a teacher, some of us have been with Muji, I've heard him say that, how fortunate it is that your last breath is always an out breath. You don't end with, you end with.
It's letting go.
Yeah, it is.
Good quote.
It is. And it's interesting that we have this word expire, which means to breathe out. Right? We inspire, expire, and it also means to die. It's the same word.
Yeah, that's good. That's good noticing.
Yeah. People notice different things in this whole experience of being around dying and death. It's so rich, I mean, when my brother died, my older brother died about 7-8 years ago now. And he'd been quite sick. He'd had lung cancer. He was a heavy smoker. And his face, just even before he got sick, like most heavy smokers, his face had gotten quite prematurely wrinkled and leathery looking. And he was only not quite 2 years older than me. And I remember I'd been out, I was living in the East Coast at the time, and I'd been out here visiting, and we had some photos of the two of us together. And someone back, he saw the photo, and they said, "Oh, how nice, you were out there visiting your dad." I said, "No, my brother. He's just a year and a half, 2 years older." So when he died, you remember, he just looked transfigured. It's like all those wrinkles, all that stress, everything just went away, and he looked beautiful. He looked radiant. It was so lovely.
Mm.
But that was right after.
Right after. Yeah.
So there was maybe still a little energy there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Have you ever done a psychedelic?
Yeah.
Which ones?
Acid was my drug
your
of choice.
go-to?
Was my drug of choice. Yeah.
Did you have a death experience in that?
I had what I thought was death. You know, it was.
Like, no, it's
it
good
was-
enough. I mean, if
yeah.
you perceived it as such.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm
And
not-
I've written about some of this stuff in my books, by the way, and you just kind of what I felt was instructive about those experiences. You know, probably my favorite story about psychedelics, and I think we're going to wrap up after this because it's almost cookie time here. Any of you ever read any of the books by Carlos Castaneda? Right. So Carlos Castaneda was in sociology here at school here at UCLA, and this was back in the '60s, and he started reading about these brujos, these shamans that lived in the southwest, New Mexico, Arizona, northern Mexico, and so he went out and he found this brujo named Don Juan, and he became like his student, and the first book that he wrote about his experiences with him was called Conversations with Don Juan, a Yaqui way of knowing. He was a Yaqui Indian. And Castaneda's trying to hold on to his, well, I'm a scientist, I'm here with the clipboard taking notes, and Don Juan is leading him through all these stuff where they're taking peyote and they're doing this thing, going into the spirit world and flying around and doing all this crazy stuff. And of course, Castaneda more and more is just knocked out of trying to intellectualize it all. Gets the like the clipboard knocked out of his hand pretty much. And then at the end of the book, he goes back home to L.A. to digest his experiences and write it up in the book. And then he keeps going back, and each time he writes a book about it. And he wrote 4 or 5 books. And one of them, at the beginning of the book, it's called Tales of Power. I think it's the 4th book in the series. He goes back out to the desert, finds Don Juan again, and he says, I've been sitting, studying, digesting about all these experiences that you've been leading me through, and I'm starting to suspect that all the substances, the power plants, they call them, all the power plants that you've been making me take actually have nothing to do with it. And Don Juan says, oh, right, of course. And Castaneda says, well, then why did you make me take all that stuff? And he says, because you're stupid. So I kind of feel that in a way culturally, like collectively, we as America coming out of the 1950s, Eisenhower, Ozzie and Harriet era, we were stupid. Our skull was very thick. We needed at the time, this is just my way of thinking about it, we needed something powerful to break through our collective thick-headedness. So psychedelics came along. And that collectively helped open people's eyes to the fact that, there's not just one little restricted way of being aware. And there could be this ultimate way of being aware, which is living boundlessness, which is living the non-duality of form and emptiness, of finite and infinite in every moment, spontaneously. And then, look at this, there's all these texts, like the Prajnaparamita Sutra saying enlightenment is nothing other than the spontaneous experience of all possible structures as non-different from open space. wow, people have been experiencing this stuff for centuries and finding non-chemical ways to be there and to not have to come down 8 hours later and go into depression, so which was always my experience. My sense of it is that kind of in a sociological way overall, that was the role that psychedelics played. I mean, that's maybe an oversimplification, but for me anyway, that was the purpose that it served.
It helped to open your mind up.
Yeah, it helped to open my mind. It helped me realize that, oh yeah, boundlessness. This is the mission. It also made me realize later on in hindsight that I had experiences of boundlessness in childhood, which I've also written about, before I ever took any substances. Oh, and you know what? It says it in the story of the Buddha, when the Buddha was sitting under the Bodhi tree in his last moment, when he finally awakened. He said, "Oh yeah, that time when I was 9-10 years old, sitting under another tree, watching my dad supervising the guys plowing the fields, just watching the plows going back and forth and just being there, letting everything go back and forth. This is the same thing. I've been here before. It's natural. It's the most natural thing in the world, and without any substances, without doing anything, without meditating in the sense of doing anything. It's because it's the most natural thing in the world. The way into it is to not do anything, and not doing anything is what we call meditation. So it's really good to sit down and not do this every day. That's what really the bottom line. To really have it just like brushing your teeth. What works best for most people so they don't miss it is the same time every day. What's the time when you can sit down and close your eyes and just be, and you can start with some little on-ramp like singing descending fifths like blue moon, or following your breath, or just resting your gaze on a spot on the floor or on the horizon or something, and then let go of that on-ramp after a minute or two and just rest as awareness and come out slowly at the end. Just this dumb thing of just sitting down and being for 5, 10, 15, 20, whatever minutes every day. More if you want, but at least once a day. And then that gives you the scent, and you start to, oh yeah, this is what this non-duality is like. This is what this letting go, quote unquote, is like. This buying the one-way ticket, where just whatever comes up, throwing it into the fire. And more you realize how much you can throw everything into the fire and just reconnect with your essential nature, this boundlessness, every time you hug someone, every time you sit down to a meal, every time you take a step on the sidewalk, and another step and another step and another step. So, may all beings swiftly realize this simplest, most wonderful fact of life, and thus recognize the one true happiness. And thus may peace spontaneously prevail throughout the universe. Loka samasta Sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta Sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta Sukhino bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you. Thank you.